right. Hello. Welcome. We are going live. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sara Raymond, owner and founder of the Mindful Movement. I'm a hypnotherapist and mindfulness and meditation coach, and I'm excited to be bringing you this live training today. So tell me in the comments where you're coming from. Say hello. It's nice to have you here. All right. Hello. It's wonderful to have you. Sorry that I'm late. I just had some technical difficulty, of course. Always happens. From Alabama. Wonderful. So I'm going to just get right into it so that we can make this quick and really effective information. And I'll start by just sharing a little bit of an overview of what to expect today, and then we'll jump right into it. So don't mind me, I'm just looking down at my notes to make sure that I cover everything here in our training. So we'll start. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to remind you to make sure you download your worksheet. It's that kindergarten teacher in me coming back with worksheets for you. So the worksheet will help you to follow along with the information, and it has some really relevant questions for you to ask yourself and to consider in terms of how confidence might be playing a role, positive or negative, in your life, as well as some of the beliefs that you might have that could be affecting the confidence that you're experiencing. So by the way, that is linked in the top of the chat. I pinned it to the top, so you should be able to access that, or it's in our description box. All right. That being said, lovely to have everyone here. Got lots of hellos and lots of different places that you're joining from: Virginia, California, Australia, Chicago, Maine. So wonderful to have you all here. Amazing power of the internet that we can all be so far away, but join each other and experience this training together. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with the basic definition of what is confidence, and I'll give you my own take on that as well. We'll talk about how the lack of confidence might show up in our lives. We'll talk a little bit about how the mind works, some of the most common limiting beliefs that might be standing in the way of experiencing our confidence that we desire and deserve. And then we can talk about how to use hypnotherapy to uncover those limiting beliefs and then regain the confidence that we do desire. And at the very end, I'll offer a special bonus for anyone who wants to sign up for the upcoming workshop. So stay tuned to the end. And then I will leave some time for some question and answer to go over at the very end. Just a note here, I won't really be able to follow the chat, so feel free to wait until the end to add your comments in, or if something pops up and you feel it's urgent, leave it in there. I'll scan through the chats to make sure that I get as many questions as I can. So again, I'm excited to get started. So as I mentioned before, we'll start with the definition of confidence. And by the way, confidence has been sort of our theme for the month. So all of our blog articles and all of our videos in the month of July have really been focused around building confidence, understanding your confidence, developing the confidence that you really want and deserve. So make sure you go back and check out some of those videos to help support your confidence. So the definition, when I looked up self-confidence, is confidence in oneself and in one's powers and abilities. So to me, I need to understand what confidence is, not just self-confidence. So going a little further, the definition of confidence is a feeling or consciousness of one's powers or of reliance on one's circumstance. Another definition is the quality or state of being certain. So again, that doesn't necessarily give me a whole lot of information in terms of how I want to build my own self-confidence. So to go a little bit deeper, or really it's more simple, I think the definition of self-confidence and the definition that I'll use in terms of where we're going with our confidence is the simple idea of feeling good about who you are. So that's how I will be referring to confidence as I'm talking through the rest of the training today. So one thing that's important to understand is that most babies are born with an innate confidence. And somehow, as we grow up, as we become adults, or even I would say even into the teenage years, there's something that happens that diminishes our innate confidence that we're born with. And to give you an example of this, if you have ever interacted with a baby, which I imagine most people have, they like eat up all the attention. They don't ever like shy away from parents or loved ones giving them attention, making sure that they're cared for. So that tells me that they have an innate level of confidence. You might even see like a toddler who is completely comfortable and willing to do a talent show, and whether they can sing or not, they're willing to put themselves out there and sing without the fear of failure or the fear of judgment. And that tells me that they have an innate level of confidence. And then that same toddler might have a very different experience if they were asked to do the same thing as a teenager. I know that I'm not a very good singer, but when I was a kid, I would be happy to sing in school. I had no problem with it. And then come teenage years, it was like, don't talk to me, don't look at me. And I definitely wasn't going to be caught singing in public. So something happened along the way and I lost my confidence, or, in the example of the toddler singing and then not singing, something happened to diminish their confidence. So what happened? I would venture to say that person's beliefs changed, or they were developed or ingrained in their being, and that has led them to have a diminished level of confidence. And because our beliefs are formed before puberty, this is when our logical mind isn't fully developed. So at that point, before our logical mind is fully developed, we are relying on our emotional or subconscious mind to form beliefs about ourselves. And that part of our mind doesn't really have a filter. It doesn't have an ability to recognize truth versus what's not true, or right versus what's wrong. So whatever is told to us, or whatever we interpret from our experiences, then become our beliefs. So in the document that I created, the worksheet to help you follow along, there's a spot in there that asks the question, how does a lack of confidence show up in your life? So you might take some time to sit in meditation and ask yourself that question, or just go through the process after the training is over and really start to peel back the layers of your own experience and your own beliefs, and try to understand how lack of confidence has been showing up in your life. And I'll give you some of the most common beliefs that I've seen working with clients one-on-one and in groups, what these beliefs are that tend to have an effect on confidence. And they are, the first one is the feeling of not enough or not lovable. And this shows up in lots of different ways. And it's not just lack of confidence, but for sure, a feeling of not enough or not lovable can lead to a lack of confidence. The second feeling is that I am different or I don't fit in. Probably most adults have experienced that sometime in their life, perhaps in middle school age or the early teens is where I would say is the most common, where people feel like they don't fit in or they're different. And especially today in the world of social media, preteens and teens are experiencing a lot of judging of each other, comparing of each other, because social media is available at our fingertips. So that's a big one. And then the fear of being rejected or the fear of failing. And all of these beliefs can lead to a lack of confidence. And it's unfortunate, but they're very, very common in our world, and they might show up in various aspects of our life, whether it's career or relationships or the feeling of being willing to be loved. So all of those beliefs can negatively affect us and diminish our innate confidence that we were born with. So in a hypnosis session, whether it's one-on-one or groups, what I do as a hypnotherapist and a guide is I guide I'm speaking directly to the emotional part of your mind. The subconscious mind is where all of your beliefs are held. So I'm guiding you back to events from your past so that you can understand how, why, where, and when these beliefs were developed. And then you can recognize that your beliefs from childhood might no longer be relevant, right? If you're an adult, it's really not relevant or even appropriate to have the same beliefs that you might have had when you were 5 or 8 years old. So having that understanding is what empowers you to change your beliefs. So you recognize that it's not relevant and it's probably not true anymore. And then you have the power to change that belief. And this is important because our beliefs drive our behaviors. And the same belief that you might have developed when you were 5, for example, will continue to play out over and over again in our behaviors, in our relationships, in so many aspects of our life. So in order to change a behavior, and in this case, I'm kind of linking a lack of confidence as a behavior. In order to change a behavior, you must first change the belief that is driving that behavior. And you can't change something that you don't first understand. And that's where, if we go back to the process that takes place in hypnosis, you have an understanding of your beliefs. So hopefully that makes sense. So now understanding a little bit about how the mind works. So if you're following along on your worksheet, that is starting on page 2. So we're not going to go over all of the ideas of how the mind works, but we'll talk about a few relevant ones. And then if you decide you want to attend the workshop, then we'll go over all of the ways that the mind works and how we can use this information in order to support the building of confidence. So keep in mind, the part of your mind that holds your beliefs is not logical. So it is often difficult to kind of, I would say, quote, make sense of your beliefs if we're consciously, logically trying to understand beliefs. So we might say, if that belief of not enough is driving the lack of confidence, I would say logically, well, of course, I don't want to feel not good enough. I'll just be enough and I'll have confidence because that's what I want. But that doesn't always work because our beliefs are not logical, they're emotional. And unfortunately, I don't know if this statistic is accurate, but I did a little bit of Google searching and I found a statistic about how much or what percentage of our population has a lack of confidence. And I found one article that said 95% of children and adults experience a lack of confidence or low self-esteem at some point in their life. So that's not 100% of the time, but 95% is a huge amount of our population that has at one point or another experienced a lack of confidence. So this is something that we really need to improve and understand to gain the confidence and the self-esteem that we really desire. So the first rule or the first idea about your mind is that it's not logical, it's emotional. And that's where all of our beliefs are held, in the emotional part of our mind. And then the second concept that I'd like to share with you is that our mind is always moving us towards what we label as pleasurable or comfortable or desirable, if you will. And it's moving us away from anything that we label as pain or undesirable or uncomfortable. So as an example of that, if you label failure as painful or uncomfortable, your mind might give you low confidence as a way to prevent you from trying something that you might possibly fail at doing, which really is everything we do, we might possibly fail at. So it's a way of moving you away from what you've labeled as painful. So the benefit of knowing this is that you can change what you label as pleasurable or painful. So understanding that failure might lead you to learning something new or gaining a skill that you didn't have before, you can label that as pleasurable in your mind, as a good possibility, an opportunity for you. And therefore, your mind will recognize it as a pleasurable or positive experience. And that way you can let go of the low confidence and regain the confidence that you were born with in order to try things that maybe you were straying away from or avoiding in the past. So hopefully that makes sense for you. So as I said, there are some other ideas that we'll go over in the workshop in terms of how the mind works and how you can use that information to benefit you, to regain the confidence that you desire. So once you have an understanding of how the mind works and how you can use it to benefit you, it's time to tell yourself positive things, give yourself positive visualizations or images in your mind. And we want to use these positive words and images in order to support what we do desire. So once you understand the limiting beliefs from your past, then you can change them. And let's say if we go back to the belief of not good enough, then you can use the limiting belief that you had in the past and flip it around or make it a positive in order to release the old belief and build a new belief. So in that situation, if your belief was I'm not good enough, then you change it to I am good enough. Simple as that. And I would recommend when you're creating your new positive beliefs, using present tense and first person. So just as I did with the belief of not good enough, changing it to I am good enough, that's a a present tense, I am, and it is first person. I'm speaking about myself. So some other examples might be, I am confident, I deserve success, or I am worthy of all that I desire. So one quick bonus idea about how the mind works is that it really thrives on consistency and repetition. So it's always moving towards what's familiar. And the way that you make something familiar is through consistency and repetition. So once you've created your positive statements, positive new beliefs, then you want to be using them consistently and repeatedly. So some ideas of how to use the beliefs. Number one, you can repeat them in your head many times a day, over and over. You can write them on a sticky note and stick them on your mirror. You can use them or create a wallpaper for your phone or your computer so that you're consistently reading them, consistently being exposed to them. And then the last idea I have for you is to make these statements your passwords. So you're typing them on the computer every time you log into your email or whatever other use that you might have for your passwords. So I hope that these tips are helpful for you to start to regain some confidence now that you understand where the beliefs that you formed or how the beliefs you formed might be causing or limiting the confidence in your life. You can change it around and you can create new positive beliefs to build and regain the confidence that you have had in the past. And then additionally, if you would like to dig a little bit deeper into your own limiting beliefs, I have a 2-hour live workshop coming up this Saturday, July 31st. It's from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we will go through 2 different hypnosis sessions. The first one to understand and uncover your limiting beliefs, which sometimes just takes a little bit of guidance because, again, we're accessing the emotional subconscious mind rather than our conscious logical mind, which is what we would be doing if we were having a conversation here, or what you might be accessing just brainstorming and journaling or writing down what you might think is your limiting belief. And then the second part is to reinstall or adopt new positive beliefs. So all of that will happen in the course of the 2-hour workshop. And then you will receive a recording to listen to create that repetition and consistency of the new positive beliefs. So that's happening this Saturday. I would love for you to join me. The link is in the description. I think I copied it here. Let me just see. No, I don't have it here. So it's in the description box below. If you want to check that out, that would be great. I'd love to have you. And it will have a recording replay for those of you who are in attendance. And the bonus is, I promised, the bonus is if you register today after our training, then you will receive an additional free download of a recording of a sleep meditation for confidence. So the one that comes with the workshop is more for during the day, and then you'll have an additional sleep meditation that is designed for building confidence and helping you go to sleep each night. So you have that bonus. And I think that's everything I have for you. So I'll open up the floor for a few minutes of questions. So I'm going to just pop up to the top of the questions or the chat box and see if I have any questions. Got lots of hellos watching from different locations around the world. That's always so fascinating to me. Okay, so one question is, what is the difference between the mind and the brain? And I would say the mind is part of the organ of the brain. And what I'm specifically speaking about when I talk about the mind is the subconscious aspect of your mind. Again, it's the emotional part of your mind. It is where all of your beliefs and your memories of past events are held. So that is what I'm referring to as the mind. Yeah, so here's a comment about diminishing confidence at 18, 19, 20 still affects you. Yeah. And that's, as I mentioned, about the beliefs drive our behaviors. And in order to change the behavior, we need to change the belief. So hopefully this helped you, and maybe you can uncover your beliefs that might be still impacting your confidence. Oh, how do you define emotional in contrast to logical? That's a good question. So emotional, I would say, doesn't follow logic. And I know that I'm not necessarily answering your question. How do they differ? They are kind of opposites, I would say, right? Our emotions are our feelings, like feeling sad or alone or happy. And when we follow our emotions, it doesn't always make sense. And I guess that's how I'm referring to logic. Like the example of how we connect or how we label failure as a negative, right? It's something that we don't want. It would be something that, in terms of our emotions, we might attach disgust or discomfort, or trying to think of another emotion that you might attach to failure. Like anger or sadness, even somebody might attach to failure. So that is why logically I might say, well, failure is not that bad, right? It's given me an opportunity to learn, but emotionally I'm attaching anger or sadness or the feeling of not being good enough to failure. And therefore I'm making emotional behaviors, emotional choices to avoid something that might end in failure. So hopefully that is a clear distinction for you. Let's see, any other questions here? Good video for clearing the subconscious. I know we have one that refers to releasing negative emotions. You might search through our videos for that. And otherwise, I would say it depends on what you are trying to clear from the subconscious. So I'm not sure that answers that, but let's see. How do people mindfully reintegrate an open society after? Okay, so this is a sort of timely question about reintegrating after limited exposure. That's a good question. And I think it's different for every individual. And I wouldn't necessarily go into specific advice for you, your personal experience on an event like this. But I would say building confidence with the workshop that's coming up would be a great opportunity to dig a little deeper into what you might need to reintegrate. Or a one-on-one session would also be a good opportunity to discover what you specifically might need. So I think that's where we're going to end our session today. It's been about a half hour, so I'm really glad that you joined me. And I hope that some of your questions were answered. And if not, I'd love to see you in the upcoming workshop and future live events. So thanks, everyone, and take care.